Hello and welcome everybody to a brand new episode of r/ProRevenge. My name's Ryan, the official host here on Reddit Voice, and I look forward to bringing you guys today's top stories. Before I do, however, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit that subscribe button, as well as make sure you got notifications turned on, that way you could stay up to date with all the latest and the greatest. Our first story of the evening comes to us from Little Miss Bunny Woman, and it's called Harass Me, Treat Me Like Crap. That's gonna cost you 5 years' salary. First, some background. A bit over 6 months prior to the start of this story, we had a change-up at the company I worked for. The old owner was a great guy that was retiring and handing the company off to his son, a real POS, just out of business school type. The son, with the mentality that the company is now his, went about restructuring, namely reassigning teams to different projects, and leaving those that remained in the old positions to pick up double, if not triple, the workload. He did all of this in the name of saving a little money. Unfortunately, my department, Safety and Engineering, of which I was the team lead, was not spared from this effort. In the end, I had it out with the boss and department head, ultimately costing the company 3 months of my entire department working 80 hours a week and forcing a huge year-end bonus to be paid out to us. Unfortunately, after my initial meeting with the new boss, i.e. the son, he took a liking to me in a really bad way. Essentially, he really liked me and wanted to go out with me or sleep with me or however you want to put it. He even enlisted his friends and secretaries to help him. It went on for months, just blatant sexual harassment. They even made comments about me losing my late husband and that I should just get back on the horse, so to speak. I kept everything, every email, every voicemail, and went to my best friend who happens to be a really good lawyer, a contract lawyer to be exact, so not exactly their area of expertise, but they knew enough to help. This friend drafted a letter to the boss, essentially a stop or we're gonna start a big case over this kind of thing, and yeah, everything stopped. However, I was then moved from working in office to a work from home arrangement. I knew that was coming. They were going to do their best to get rid of me, so I started documenting everything. But as luck would happen, I received an email chain from the bosses. A good friend of mine in the office, who was in the email chain, added me to the CC list, and wouldn't you know, it was back and forth communication of them discussing how they would get rid of me and pin the blame on me. The email chain was disgusting. They hated me so badly and wanted me gone, but because of my contract, they would have to buy me out. But being the cheapskates they are, you know they wanted me gone for free. So the company bosses started a campaign to try and torment me. They first tried to say that because I now work from home, they were required to install cameras in my home office to make sure I was being productive. Luckily, that did not work. You have to love contracts. They also tried to assign impossible workloads to me, but luckily my team and I were almost like family and they picked up the slack. After 3 months of this crap, I get an email and a phone call from the HR department saying I was getting laid off indefinitely because there was just no work for me. This was complete BS given that we had several dozen projects we were working on. On a side note, in Ontario there's no such thing as a layoff, as in the court's eyes, being laid off is considered an active dismissal, which is essentially the same as being fired. After this conversation with HR, I call my lawyer friend, almost in tears, just shouting, "Look what they're doing to me! Help!" She calms me down and tells me that this is a good thing because we have so much evidence against them. I already had forwarded and printed off everything that was sent to me. And it was lucky I did because a few hours after I was laid off, my computer was remotely wiped clean. Everything was gone, leaving just a blank desktop. When I called the HR department to get copies of all my filed complaints, what do you know? Everything was gone. In their place was a bunch of BS reprimands that never happened, that I never signed or saw, dating months and months back. All signed by the new boss, despite the fact that they were dated before he ever took control of the company. It was clear they were total BS, but I have copies of everything to add to my stack of records. I texted all my old colleagues to let them know what was happening and that I am basically gone. Like I said earlier, we were like family, and with me on the way out, they started to look for better employment. Not only that, but they contacted all their friends who work for the company to do the same. I was laid off on a Monday, and on Thursday I walked into the office with my employment lawyer. I swear the main secretary was on the phone to security the second she saw me walk in, and they were at the door in a matter of a minute. My lawyer simply handed her a legal document, a summons to meet for mediation at his office on next Friday. During the following week, I received so many calls and texts from the boss, friends of the boss, secretaries, and people I knew in the office to just be friendly with the owner, to just drop it, and that they wanted to bring me back and forget about everything. Like hell I was going back to such a hostile work environment. Friday finally comes, and into my lawyer's office, my former boss walks in with a squad of 4 of his lawyers to settle the matter. And off the bat, he offers me 3 months severance to end all of this because I didn't have any evidence to rebut the fake paperwork they had on file. At this point, my lawyer starts to bring out all the paperwork we had, namely copies of every complaint I had ever filed, which were all signed by the bosses, HR, and myself. Luckily for our case, I had made sure to take a copy of each complaint when it was written up, and they didn't think I had anything. Oh boy, were they wrong. My lawyer made the case that in court it would be obvious all the paperwork they had on their end were forgeries. Nothing was signed by me, and he pointed out that there were dates with the boss's signature where he hasn't been in the country, let alone working for the company yet. At this point, the boss and his lawyers went to speak privately. After about a half hour, they come back with a much better offer. A full year's salary, but my lawyer just went, nah, we'll go with what the contract says, plus go for damages in court. Given the recent changeover at the company, the lawyers seemed to know they couldn't afford this going to court. Not to mention, it would be so bad for the company's reputation. So they basically rolled over and asked, what do you want? We demanded 5 years' salary, plus the average bonus I would have made for each year, plus all the legal fees paid. It was a big win, but it didn't end there. I got a taste of blood, and I wanted more. I made phone calls to several companies where I had contacts and found jobs for every member of my team, and several other teams. By the end of the week, the company lost 10 of its most talented people. Not to mention, most of those people had friends and colleagues that ended up following them to their new employers. The fallout was pretty bad. Before all this, they had their pick of the litter, with new university students graduated. But now, they lost almost all of their senior people. They had no one to mentor the new employees. Plus, word got out how fast that they treat their workers like crap, so no one with any talent would even think of getting near their company. As of today, the company's a shell of its former self. It's still big, but it bleeds money. They also now have a problem with permanent staffing and are paying out the nose to hire subcontractors. Let's just say they don't make money like they used to. In fact, they haven't started any new projects in something like 9 months. If something isn't done on the side of management to improve things fast, they'll likely be going bankrupt in the very near future. Our second story of the evening comes from Gadget Town's Me 3 months ago, and it's called X yelled, had a temper tantrum about child support at his job, and blamed me in court for it. The next time I had to go to his work, he regretted it. My friend said to post this here. My ex is an abusive pile of shit, and we had a kid together. I left him while I was pregnant, but I would take my baby to see him on his lunch hour occasionally. He paid us $29 a month in child support for a very long time. It got reviewed when he got his job, and it went to $89 a month. When he found out how much it went up, he threw a screaming temper tantrum in his work and chased me out of the building with our 9-month-old. We had family court a few days later, and he blamed me for everything. He even got his friend to lie and say he was there and that I started it. The judge thankfully didn't believe him, but I was told to continue these terrible visits at his work. Now for the revenge. It was a furniture rental store, and he would constantly badmouth customers in very detailed ways. The next and last time I took our baby there, I sat down with a small notepad and wrote down the names he and the other person said, how many months they said they were behind, how much they said they were owed, and every name he and his buddy called every single person. There were quite a few racial slurs that day. When time was up, he had to leave, and I told his boss. The boss didn't do a damn thing. I knew 3 people he was badmouthing, and I knew how to get in touch with 5 or so others. I worked my way through that list, telling people exactly how their personal financial info was being released and the names they were called. He and his buddy lost their jobs the next day, and the owner filed a restraining order against them. I didn't feel bad at all. Edit. I'm on mobile and I have no idea how to format. This happened almost 20 years ago, so my child is safe and an adult now. I haven't made my way through all the comments, but I'm not a psycho. I went to his work because I was told by the mediator on the days I had time. I would sit as far away from him as possible and read for school. This was the arrangement we all agreed on, and it had worked for several visits before that day. Boss didn't do anything because they were friends. How did I make it with getting almost no support? I worked 2 jobs, one of which I could take my kid with me to most of the time. My family and friends were very helpful, and I did it all because I had to. Edit 2. I forgot to include that as an unintentional effect, this was a final straw that got the store closed down. People called corporate to complain. It was in our local paper and in our local news. And there you have it, folks. The end of the epics. If you like these stories, be sure to leave a like on the video, as well as make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on. That way you could stay up to date with all future videos. As always, my name's Ryan, the official host here, the voice behind Reddit Voice, uploading just about every single day. And I look forward to seeing you guys in tomorrow's video.